Hey everyone, and in today's video we're going to be going ahead and talking about Emilie because they just released the Genshin 4.8 trailer and it showed some of her gameplay as well as what she does on teams. So the main thing that they centered around with Emilie is her Lumidu's case. So basically what this does is that it'll do dendro damage at intervals, and it starts at level 1 and it will increase to level 2 when it consistently collects cents over time while there are burning opponents on the field. Once it collects 2 cents, it'll transform into a level 2 case, and this will do more damage as it'll basically do double the instances of damage while dealing increased damage in itself. So this makes Emilie a character that is very prevalent and very centered around creating comps that can consistently enable burning so that she can do more damage. And then with her level 3 Lumidu's case in her elemental burst, it'll do extra instances of damage, and after its animation is over, it'll actually reset the duration of the Lumidu's case that was existing previously. Meaning that if you had a level 2 case on the field and then you use her elemental burst, then it'll reset her duration. This basically works in tandem with something like Fischl, for example, where you use her skill at the beginning of rotations, and then at the end you can use her burst and you can alternate between the two depending on which one is off cooldown or available. It's basically a series of just trying to consistently reset the duration of your skill and trying to keep it on field for as long as possible. Now of course this is an amazing thing because this is actually making a character that is not reliant on using the elemental burst every rotation to be successful. What this means is that players have the option to use her burst both either every other rotation or every rotation depending on the scenario. Scenarios where I personally think she might want to use her burst every rotation, realistically speaking, I would only really say in cases where it is like heavy AoE or you're against multiple targets and you really think that you might want to invest in some energy to be bursting every rotation so that way you can clear AoE chambers sufficiently. Because the thing about Emilie is that a lot of her damage looks like it is very single target oriented, or at most against like 2 different enemies that are close together. Meaning that if you do want to have some success in AoE content, you probably are going to want to invest in some energy recharge to consistently burst every rotation. Or if you don't want to do that, then you might have to invest in AoE based characters that perform crowd control like some Animo characters or something along those lines. However, regardless, she does seem like a relatively strong character for burning type niches, because with burning, there's of course pure burning types with things like Animo CC type variants, or with like dendro DPSs, although those ones may not be as sufficient in certain scenarios. But the ones where I definitely see her having most success are burning based teams that are oriented around like pyro damage dealing units. This is specifically the case in cases like mono pyro teams. I can definitely see her being either a side grade or an upgrade in these teams depending on the context. Additionally, with burning, a common reaction alongside burning has been burn melt with crowd DPS units. So we can definitely see her being played with offfielders like Kaya or Rosaria, or definitely with onfielders like Risley. And I think a unit that's definitely going to synergize pretty well with her is actually Toma, because Toma does provide the off-field pyro to allow burning to consistently trigger, and honestly, I can see a decent amount of cases where he might be more than enough to consistently help her keep burning uptime. And because of this, I can see cases with like Quicken, for example, like quick burn type teams or weird stuff like that, that can actually be viable, although maybe not the best teams, but compared to the general baseline of Quicken variant teams that are specifically centered around pure spread and aggravate damage, I can definitely see potential to be either on par or very few cases where it could be maybe on a little bit better. It really just depends and just probably requires more testing and also in-game practice to ideally get a sense of how it feels. But for the most part, overall, Emilie seems like a pretty straightforward character, but also a relatively powerful character. Oh yeah, one that I forgot to mention is like Burgeon type stuff. Not super pure Burgeon type stuff, but stuff where she can be played on field with something like C6 Bennett, and she can consistently do pyro normal attacks to consistently trigger burning. And you could do some quirky stuff with like burn vape type with like Farina, or you could do more burgeony type stuff with other characters. So although she does have a niche that she fulfills, she has some amount of flexibility into who she can be paired with to create various little different archetypes within that niche, which I think is actually relatively healthy for a character, especially at this stage in the game. And overall, in my opinion, I'm personally very interested in this character. I've generally liked her since she first appeared in terms of a visual standpoint with the introduction card. So this is a character I'm personally triple crowning in level 90 like right off the bat. And also in my opinion, she is very pretty. I know other people do not agree. I don't care. I personally think she's relatively pretty, although I will say that the weapon doesn't really fit her too much. The weapon design is a little weird for Emilie based on how it's designed versus how she appears, but that's whatever. In my opinion, I just like everything about her so far, and she seems like an interesting character both from a gameplay perspective, but also in my opinion from a character perspective with the way that they introduce the fact that she's not just like a floral person, but she's also like a forensic cleaner, which is very interesting. So might actually be the first character I might care enough about to do the story quest for right off the gate, so let's have to wait and see. Alright, and that will conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next one, bye bye.